Hi, it's Megan. So I talk a lot about Shu Uemura. It's one of my favorite brands. Recently, I guess what I like does change a little bit, but this has been one of my favorite brands recently. And so when they had their Chinese New Year sale, I got the Shu palette, the pressed eyeshadow, and they call this 16 Shades of Nude. It's $89, and they say it's born to define Asian eyes. So I definitely don't have Asian eyes, but it still works on me. And according to the website, it says, redefines the nude to perfectly blend in with Asian skin tone and eye shapes to give dimension to Asian eyes. Neutral shades in different tones are selected and placed in the way to create beautiful gradation in 3 steps. Defines and adds nuance with a delicate texture, beautiful tools, beautiful finish. And there is a double-ended eyeshadow brush in here. So I'm going to deal with a whole bunch of issues here. I like to talk a little bit at the very beginning of the video because then I can overlay my outdoor swatches, and I always like personally to see the colors outside just because I think they look different than they look inside. So this, first of all, is the palette. It is much bigger than I expected. If you know Shu Uemura's pricing, this is a great deal. It's not a cheap brand at all. I'm not going to show the mirror, but it's got a really big mirror, and then these are the eyeshadows. So you got quite a lot going on here. And then in back, it's in both English and in Japanese. And the total weight is 16, so there's 16 shades at 1.4 grams for a total weight of 0.049 ounce. And what do I think? So first of all, overall on the palette, and then I'm going to get to this whole Asian eye thing, but let's go to the palette first. Overall, I think that the shades are beautiful, amazing, and consistent across the whole palette. There was one shade, which I will show you, which I thought wasn't so great quality-wise, but the rest of them I thought were just amazing and beautiful and fabulous. They're a very... I'm going to show you the palette again, just so you can see. You can see they're a little bit powdery, but when you're applying them, they're super creamy in the application. And while the shades look like they're veering lighter, which is true. They do veer lighter, so you can see my ceiling, look at that. Oh. They do tend to veer lighter, but the undertones and kind of the effects of the different shimmers in these shadows actually have a huge impact on how they look on. So this palette in particular really needs the outdoor swatches, just because in so many of them I'm like, wow, there's so many different tiny little bits of micro glitter. What colors am I seeing? And I did my best to try to figure it out, but you definitely have kind of all these shifting color shimmer things, from small bits of glitter to tiny micro bits of glitter. Even some of the ones that look like they're going to be matte, like that black one over there, that actually has these tiny, tiny little bits of micro glitter in it. And because the bits were so little, sometimes it was really hard for me to figure out what color they were. And the mattes in here are not flat mattes. They almost have like a satin matte texture to them, and that they look matte almost, if that makes sense. They don't look quite as flat as a lot of mattes do. They're really, I have nothing bad to say about this palette at all. It's really beautiful. They're creamy, they apply well. They are a little bit powdery in the pan. I tried to use the eyeshadow brush for the video, and so it has kind of a wider one right here for applying the eyeshadows, and then a little small end right here for doing the line, which I do just up top, you know, lining your eyes. And I think this is a much better quality shadow brush than a lot of times you get in a palette, but I really found I needed my brushes to get the look I wanted with my eyes. So it's good in a pinch, or, you know, for the specific uses of the two ends, but I prefer using my own brushes, honestly. The Asian eye thing. So there is different, obviously, eye shapes and different ways to apply makeup and everything. Let's take it out of Asian for 1 second, then we'll come back to Asian. When they talk about, how did they phrase it? They talked about giving dimension, and how they have neutral shades in different tones. So what you have in this palette, just to sum it up, is you have a lot of different finishes, from matte to slightly shimmery to glittery to deep to lighter colors to nuances of the same type of color. And so what you can do is you can create a lot of different depths and illusions with the shadow. So if you put, you know, a lighter shadow with a lot of shimmer right in the middle between two darker ones, you know, this one a little bit lighter than this one, you're going to create depth in the eye. And if you kind of build up on the outer edges, you're going to also create kind of a depth in the eye that you wouldn't get with just applying one wash of color. Some of the colors, because they have the shimmer in them, do a great job as well as just being a wash of color, or the darker ones is just a liner, but you can really get different gradations. And with an Asian eye, if you see my eye, you can actually see that I have a little crease that shows. When my eyes are fully open, right, there's a definite crease. Sometimes with almond-shaped eyes, it's not just Asian eyes. With Asian eyes, you don't get the crease actually showing up. You just get kind of a basic, you see the skin without seeing that depth in the crease. And that's where you can really build up by using the gradations and the shimmery effects and the depth and the deepness of some of the other shades to really create optical illusions in your eyes. So that was what was really amazing about this eyeshadow palette, is that they really thought about that as well. So I just did a simple look here, but I even started playing around with a little bit of the different types of textures and finishes just to create a little bit of a different look than I would have had if I just used one shadow to do what I was doing. And if someone wants me to do a tutorial to show what I'm talking about, I'm happy to do it. Just suggest it. So now I'm going to go through the shades one by one, and I would say that these are just really beautiful, neutral, well thought out, not over the top, not crazy, but just flattering shades. I really, of the neutral nude palettes I have, I think this one falls a little less flat than some of the others. And it's not just for Asian eyes. The colors here really work beautifully on just about everyone's eyes, and they have a good mix of cooler and warmer toned shades, although I think it, because there's a lot of browns and kind of some golds and some coppers, I think it does lean a little bit warmer. But I basically think that this particular eyeshadow palette can be used on kind of anybody, actually, and I really love it. Just have nothing bad to say. So anyway, let's go here. I'm going to try to get through this reasonably quickly because I don't like videos that are too long, but it's hard when you've got 16 shades. And the wear time on these, I don't get any fallout from any of them, no matter how shimmery they are. There's one shade which I said is a little bit weaker, and I'll show you that one. That one, maybe a little bit of fallout. They blend beautifully. They apply very consistently, just really nicely on the lid, and they last, I would say, about 8 or 9 hours without eyeshadow primer. So that is one of the nice things about this eyeshadow palette too. For a long time, I felt like every eyeshadow I wore, I had to use an eyeshadow primer, and then recently I've just discovered these brands where I don't. So the first shade is a smooth, glittery, shimmery gold white, and you can see multicolor sparkles in it outside, but not inside. And this right here is a really, it's not going to show very much. This is a really hard color to get right. This is one of those that in most of the videos or reviews you'll see of eyeshadow palettes gets like the D, the F, whatever, because what this is, it's a lighter wash of color with kind of visible chunks of glitter, but these visible chunks of glitter are quite small compared to some of the other versions I've seen, and so I actually like this type of color as just a really nice wash of color on my eyes. And then also I really like it lining my under eyes, or on the look I have here, I put it in the inner corner of my eye. But it is basically a very light wash of color, and one of the better applications of that type of formula I've seen, and it's like a gold white. The next one is a very light camel taupe. It has almost pink silver micro glitter in it. So I would say it was a satin matte, except it does, in the sunshine, you can see little bits of glitter in it. And again, this is a super light shade. This really is something you could use right here, right under your eyebrow, to kind of open up your eyes, to even out your skin tone, which is how I learned. You put kind of the highlight shades. But it's actually something that really reminds me of a lot of the I don't know, setting powders or highlighting powders that you see, that I've seen recently, released by MAC and the whole bit, you can actually use it as a highlight right up here, or you know, wherever you're going to do your highlights as well. It's a very pretty shade, super light though, and it's really good for creating contrast with other colors. The next one is a high sheen metallic light copper. It's this right here. So the people who aren't going to like this are the ones who don't like too many light colors. Look at how that, you can just see the metallic, how metallic that is as it shifts. So it's a super light copper. It's a really fun shade. I see a lot of coppery shades. I don't see something like this. And if you were to take one of the darker coppers in the outer corner, or the darker browns in the outer corner, or lighter copper in the middle, and put this in the middle, again, you're going to create real depth and open up your eyes. Very pretty. The next one is a very similar color to the one before, or the shadow itself, the formula is very similar to the one before, but it's like a pink taupe. And you can see silver in it. You see how hard it is to describe some of those colors? Like, how do you describe that color? It's like taupe, pink, silver. And this is obviously a cooler color than the last ones we've seen. But again, you can see the color shift as the light hits it. And I think the concept between, or the reason for them saying this adds depth for Asian eyes, is since the Asian eyes do tend not to have that crease, and they tend to have a little bit of a flatter lid, by putting some of these glossy with the mattes, you can kind of, in the dark and the light, you can really create the appearance of depth. The next one is a light brown matte. This actually seems to be a matte. And this is one of the first kind of colors I really got into when I really got into makeup. It's a little bit browner and warmer than what I first got into, but this was like the Bobbi Brown taupe, but it's a little bit browner and warmer. So it's got almost like a reddish undertone to it. The next one is a bronze metallic, and it's a lot like the earlier lighter one we saw, but it's darker. And again, you can see that shift in color. It's a rich, warm color, brown bronze. The next one is like a taupe metallic, and this one is a little less shimmery than some of the others. It does have multicolor, like shimmer in it. You can see right there. I didn't put it in where you can see it. It's right here. You can see right there, just depending on how the light hits. The next one is a blue-gray charcoal. It's less shimmery, but it again has kind of different multicolor in it, like almost pink, blue, really little tiny bits. You can't see it inside. Then it looks almost like a matte, like a satin matte. But outside you can see the little bits of, you can see how charcoal dark that is. But it does have blue and gray in it. The next row, so let me hold up this again. This is it. The next row, we have a gold. No, we have a matte satin. This one's pink bone, and it has little tiny bits of shimmer in it. Oh, this is a really light shade. This just isn't going to show up very much. This is a cooler colored, obviously, but because it's more like a pink bone, it's not completely cool toned. The next one is a gold multicolor with micro shimmer. I can see blue, green, blue in this. So it's not going to show up at all on this video, because as I'm looking at the camera, when I look over the side, that's what I'm looking at. This is a really light color. These look like the color that they look like in the pan, but when you take them outside, that's where you see all the different colors. So super light. Those who hate light palettes are not going to like this. Then a micro glitter. This one, okay, this is a hard one to describe. Again, they're really hard. I was trying to write these descriptions down. I was having a hard time. This one's a little bit darker, so let's compare it to the first one. But these are both super light. This one has like a peach look to it, right there. So you can see the first one is almost white. This one's more peach. And again, more of a satin matte with little tiny bits of glitter in it. Then we have a chunkier pink peach satin base. It's more noticeable seeing the glitter, kind of gold, pink, silver. I wrote all this down. This one was one of the chunkier shades, and I actually have this on the inner part of my lid right here. And you can see as it, God, these are so light, they just don't show up. You can see right there. This is the only way it's going to show up. And this was the one before. Again, these are super light. The next shade is the one that I just I just have a hard time with. So this one is a glitter gold bronze deep copper, and I really can only use this very carefully. It's a beautiful, beautiful, look at that color, but I just find that it doesn't apply as easily as some of the others. So the whole quality of the palette is amazing. It still applies well. It's just a little bit more fallout from this. It's a little bit chunkier in texture. Beautiful color, but even, you can see here, even just using it a couple times, it's showing kind of that powderiness. Then, the last three, this one right here is a satin, we use micro glitter in I thought green, pink, and it's a warmer color, almost like a pinky brown color, if that makes sense. You can see. And all the swatches I'm doing are just one swipe. I don't believe in trying to make the swatches look perfect because that's just being dishonest. The next one is a deep charcoal silver. You can see taupe in it. It looks super metallic again. A lot of these, I keep saying over and over again, there's a real metallic sheen to them. This is a really unusual color. Like, look at that. It's hard again to say what colors you see in that. This looks like shark skin, right? Like a light color shark skin. And then the last one is a black satin matte with tiny micro glitter, and I couldn't tell what color the tiny micro glitter was. But it applies beautifully. Some people might say that that isn't, I don't know, the richest, deepest black that they've ever seen, but let's see, can we build that up a little bit more? This is the only time we're going to do a double swatch. It's probably my second least favorite of the shades, but I think it's quite black and quite pigmented and all that enough. And when I'm saying they're not my most favorite shades, like I said, the quality in this palette is beautiful and amazing and wonderful and fabulous. So we're not talking about bad shades. We're just talking about, you know, you're up here and then you drop down. You're up here and then you drop down just a teeny, teeny bit. So overall, I think this is one of the better, no, it is definitely one of the better kind of neutral palettes. But if you don't like metallic shades, if you don't like tiny little bits of shifting color, micro glitter, barely there kind of stuff that you can see in the sunlight, and you don't like a lot of lighter colors in your palette, then this probably isn't for you, but it's a great deal. It is a limited edition palette from Shu Uemura, and it, quite frankly, is just really, really, really beautiful. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.